Welcome to the Wizard of Cause, your go-to podcast for social impact, where we speak to innovative businesses, how they give, and of course, the charities that they love and inspire them. Now, whether you're an entrepreneur, a startup founder, or a business professional looking to stay ahead of the curve, the Wizard will show you how to build lasting social impact on the world. Are you ready to grow, give, and be inspired? Let's get started.
Hey, are you looking to scale your business from five figures to six figures or six figures to seven figures? If you are, I have the perfect thing for you. What I want you to do today is I want you to go download a book. This book is going to take you through my 3-pillar system. It's 100% free. All you have to do is go to growfast.cash. I say again, go to growfast.cash and you're going to be able to download my free international best-selling book, which is called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. You can take that book. It's going to help you scale your business to the next level. Again, go download it. Be good, be brief, be gone. Growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash. Enjoy.
Once again, I'm glad to see everybody today. I have with me my very good friend of the last 9.5 minutes. I'm kidding. I've talked to Gilda before, Gilda Evans, and Gilda is with the Autism Resource, and she works with people on the spectrum all day long. I'm going to ask her to tell us a little bit about herself in just a second. But if you have a family member, if you have a business, she is going to give you a couple of tips that can always be a little bit more beneficial to you. Gilda, not the first time we've chatted. Thank you for being here with us today. For the kids in the back, tell us your name, the name of your organization in a nutshell, what you do.
Well, thanks, Will. I'm really happy to be here with you today. I'm Gilda Evans. I am the founder and president of the Autism Resource Project. And together with my board, we are creating a first of its kind online 24/7 global resource hub and network for the neurodivergent and disabled communities.
That for the neurodivergent, that is a mouthful in of itself. See,
Yes.
that would intimidate me just from the beginning of the conversation. But of course, so anybody in the spectrum. So on a day-to-day, right? What do you do? Do families in your area? Do you just work with them? Do you put information out online? Do you have a certain footprint?
Yeah, it's an online resource.
Mm-hmm.
So as you know, because we've spoken before, I also host and produce the Autism Resource Podcast. And the podcast is going on 5 years old, more than 150 episodes strong. We've been listened to in 13 countries and tens of thousands of downloads. So it's doing very well, and I'm very, very proud of it. I created it originally to be a knowledge and resource base for this community. And then last year kind of had an epiphany and thought, well, you know what? The podcast is doing really well, but I want to do more because I saw a gap, a need that wasn't fulfilled and that I thought ought to be. So the Autism Resource Podcast has become the Autism Resource Project. We are a 501c3. And in addition to the podcast as the fulcrum, if you will, we are going to be adding a library of webinars, resources, articles, guides, hard to find materials, and so forth. We're going to be adding a community network where people can connect in real time with each other, as well as a global calendar of events and conferences and things that are going on in various states here in the US and eventually in other countries as well. And we're going to be adding a marketplace specifically geared for this community. So If you're looking for adaptive clothing, a book on autism, specific kinds of services, you'll be able to find that as well. It's going to be a one-stop shop, if you will, a one-stop, as I said, source, hub, and network for this community. So that mother who just got that diagnosis for her son, let's say a 5-year-old, 8-year-old, whatever it is, her child, and doesn't know where to go, doesn't know where to turn, doesn't know what to do, who to ask, how to get. And believe me, when you're a parent, let alone the parent of a neurodivergent child, you do not have time to be a detective. You don't have time to go looking all over the etherverse for what your child needs. So she will be able, or he, or they,
Right.
whatever pronoun you might use, will be able to come to ARP, come to the Autism Resource Project, and find the knowledge and the information and the answers and the resources that you're looking for. You will be able to feel not only resourced, but understood, and know that you're not alone, and that you have the resources and the knowledge base to either begin or continue on your journey. And I'll tell you, I have spoken to so many people, and when I explain to them what we're doing, it's just an overwhelming, oh my gosh, thank
I can
goodness.
imagine.
You know, I've been looking for something like this and not been able to find it. Well, now you will be able to find it. And I can tell you stories upon stories, you know, of people who should not have to spend hours and hours and days and weeks and months, and sometimes never find what they're looking for to support their loved one.
No
My own
kidding. When you
children,
said a library, right?
yeah,
I immediately thought in my head, what a blessing. But I'm going to tell you for a secondary reason why, right?
yeah,
And this is a real world thing. I've heard from so many people, we don't have a lack of information, we have a glut. But what's the quality of that information?
hmm,
And I can imagine if I had a child on the spectrum and if I went to Amazon, what's good, what's bad? Are they going to have a couple of great books on there? Yes. Is the ranking or the number of books sold mean it's a great book for me? No. But I can imagine if I was at ARP, right, and I was looking at your curated list,
correct.
that I would feel insanely more comfortable in terms of the pieces I'm getting, right? I mean, anytime you
Right.
take on a new project, you can find 30,000 versions of it, right? And, people written everything from pamphlets to books, but a curated list. No, this is garbage. No, this is a book version of clickbait made to scare you, terrify you, yada, 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 right? Let me tell you about the longest car ride I've ever had in my life.
Okay.
I have two children. My eldest, my daughter, turned 13 in October. She is not a special needs child, but riding with her from the hospital to my house, which was under 5 miles, I might have done it in just under half an hour. Right? It was the longest car ride of my life. She was so fragile. She's so tiny. I didn't know what to do. I'm a new parent, right? I didn't know what to do. I can imagine as a new parent or a new parent of a child that's on the spectrum, and I'm told this, I don't know what I don't know, and that is a terrifying place to be. And I can either go and swim in a sea of information, right? Trying to, hunt and peck like like your family used to do on an old-fashioned typewriter, or I mean, the moment you said library, I said, this isn't going to be every book on Amazon, right? It's going to be
That's
people that
absolutely
have
right.
been, or you're not knee deep, you're collarbone deep, right? And all the information would already say for me, good, bad, garbage will never make our list. No, no, yes, yes, definitely must read. I instantly felt good about it.
Oh,
And I love the podcast. I'm going to make a suggestion. Now, Shane the Credit is here as we're part of the Strategic Advisor Board group of CEOs. And so this podcast is in amongst their thing. And on LinkedIn alone, they have 15 million impressions or pairs of eyeballs, right, every 90 days, which is why I said I want to get Gilda to talk about the Autism Resource Project here. However, remind me when we're done. When we're done and we get the polished version of the podcast, I own this podcast 100%. Gilda owns this podcast 100%. So you get your own full version if you want to take it and put it on ARP. You don't need special permissions. We don't need signs or releases, right? We're superhero partners teaming up, right? Because we're doing the same work. This isn't
That's right.
competition, right? So make sure that when we got this, and Alicia and everybody will help you out in the team, but you can download a whole copy and use it to your heart's content because you own it and you own it outright, right?
I love it. Thank you so much.
This is simply to get the word out. So if you don't mind, actually, I'm in nonprofits. I never actually meant to get in nonprofits, right? And I do long-term funding for them. I'm a rabid capitalist. I found the nonprofit world just needed very specific help, and so I brought my own secret information to the world, and so we work and help with a lot of people. But we also we talk about nonprofits, we talk about businesses and how they can help nonprofits, what nonprofits inspire those businesses. You have told me something in the past, and we were talking about this earlier about the unemployment for people on the spectrum, right?
Yeah.
And the number is upsetting. The number is staggering. Tell me again. I like to say this for the kids in the back, for somebody not paying attention. What is
Yeah.
that? What is the unemployment number for the neurodivergent?
About 85% of the community are unemployed.
And
And
highly employable.
and highly employable. Generally speaking, people who are neurodivergent are incredibly not only talented and focused, they are reliable, they are honest, they are trustworthy, they are some of the best employees. The feedback that I've heard of people who do employ those who are neurodivergent are just incredibly pleased with their performance, and could not.
They come to work with a good attitude.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, exactly, and it's really a shame because this is really a treasure trove that so many companies are overlooking, and that's one of the things we aim to solve with Autism Resource Project. And by the way, our website is autismresourceproject.org.
And we'll have the links under here below, right?
Yeah, one of the things that we are developing that we will be adding to the website are job resources, different kinds of trainings that will be available for skills that help you look for a job, that help you retain a job. We will be adding job boards, access to different job boards that exist on our website. We want to do our part to address that incredible disparity, which is just terrible in my opinion, and
No
really offer support to this community to help them gain access to getting a job and finding a career and discovering their interests and being self-sustaining, because that's what it's all about.
So here are two facts, and they need to go along with that terrible 85% you just told me, right? One, and that is, like I was saying earlier, right? I have a few businesses myself. I talk to CEOs across the U.S. Every day, and they all have a giant pain point, and that is they're missing 10% of their workforce. minimum, right? Wait a minute, minimum. Everybody I know is at their staffing is at 90% of what they should be at, right? And depending on the metric you use, that doesn't even mean for them to be at optimal numbers. Sometimes it's meaning almost like just over subsistence level, and they're really struggling. And that's just a weird thing. Couple that with the businesses I know that have people that are neurodivergent, right? And that have autism. This might be a fact that somebody else can break. They've never said, my autism client, my autism employee is my problem employee. Right? It's no, they're doing great. They're happy. They're not on Adderall. They're not. One comedian makes his joke. When he says he finds out he's got an uncle, that is living like this, and he says, "How's he doing really?" And he's like, "Better than you and me." Right? He's happy. He does his work, and couple that with the idea of, and you and I were saying this earlier, right? They want the job that you and I complain about. The average Joe that like, oh, I got to get up, I got to go to work. No, I get to go up, I get to go to work today. I want to go. I've got a job, right? I'm a human being. I've got something to put into the world. All three of those numbers should not get along in the same universe, and still have an 85% unemployment rate. So, amongst the people that you work with, do you have areas where that the placement that they particularly thrive, that they particularly like to put people into, that becomes highly trainable, where they can, because you said they're very focused, they they do their work. Is there particular job sets and areas or industries that they do particularly well in?
Well, just as with anybody, it really depends on where your particular skills and talents lie, right?
Sure.
I mean, I know some people who are neurodivergent who thrive in the scientific, the more mathematical kind of setting. I know some who are much more creative, and they thrive in the fields of entertainment and television and animation and all that sort of thing. So it just really depends.
You mean we can't just put all this in one box and just
everybody's
you mean it's the whole spectrum of humanity, just like with everybody else, right? We all
just like with everybody else.
I love
Exactly.
that. I love that, right? That's the whole point. It opens up a whole different field. So it's not always about work, right? We've got all kinds of, it's just that time of year. If you're watching this at a much later time, Gilda and I are sitting here smack dab in the middle of November. It's not Thanksgiving yet, but we're going to be going into the holiday rush hour, as it feels like. So what can families do? What can families do to prepare and make it a more fun, more engaging holiday season and everything for their entire family, including their neurodivergent family members?
Well, I'll answer that in just a moment. I want to ask you, of course, now that we're doing this podcast and recording, there's a gardener outside using a leaf blower. I just want to make sure that
I can't hear him.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
You know what? Again, we joke about this, right? I told you about we're doing a podcast, and a guy slipped and he moved his foot, and he thought he broke his toe. He stubbed it very hard, and he's like, if I'd sat here for 3 more years, I wouldn't have done that right now. And of course, right now has to be the leaf blower. But if it's noise suppression on your end, I'm not even getting any static.
Okay,
so
wonderful.
I'm just glad that the yards and everything are being taken care of. I'm glad.
Yeah, right. The neighbor's yard's going to look great.
It's going to look great.
But anyway, in terms of how to take care of a loved one who may be with you over the holidays and maybe neurodivergent. It's really just about being sensitive to their needs, to what their particular idiosyncrasies might be. Some people just, get to a point where they need to maybe go have a little bit of quiet time to themselves. So having a room available for that person to go and have a bit of quiet time, or just remove themselves from all the hustle and bustle of activity for a while, is great. Some
Just
people have,
because you can get a little overload and
yeah, sensory, there might be some sensory overload happening. It might be,
well, my
might be,
Gilda, my
yeah,
dad might be divergent. Um,
okay.
he's not. No, no. I mean, he's got to go be alone for a little while and recharge, right? He's an isolationist. I think we all suffer from that a little bit, but I do know several families, and sometimes at events, they'll have the noise suppressing earphones,
Hmm.
and I'm glad you brought that up because I'm not going to think about that, right? I'm going to think about how do I include my family member? How do I do this so that you're having as much fun and enjoying the time and the colors and the festivities when that human, just like my own dad, who's not on the spectrum, but he's going to go watch some news or golf or a football game or something, because he's a little antisocial. Um, but they're like you're letting them play in the water and they're drowning for a second, right? They need to go dry out for a little bit and need a little quiet, a little recharge. Is that one of the common parts, or like you said, is that simply um because we can't put everybody in one single box, right? Is that just a
Everybody's different. It's really just being attuned to what the particular needs and desires of that particular person are.
right?
Um, I also might suggest being attuned to what their dietary needs might be,
Hmm.
because very often those who are autistic, let's say, or neurodivergent, have certain sensitivities that need to be addressed to certain foods, or they might have IBS or some other issue that they're dealing with. So being aware of that and having foods available to them that they can eat, and that are on their menu, so to speak.
Hmm.
That's another way to make the holidays more enjoyable. Um,
Because
and
some people are going to be, aware enough and,
yeah.
and and mature about it enough to be able to discern and say, that's not going to be the best for me, but they still need the options. I'm thinking along the lines of it's an indulgent time anyway. And if
Mhm.
I'm not the best of monitoring my own situation, and the cookies are out, I might have 3 or 15, right? I might, you know,
Right.
um, it's indulgent enough, but when that can when that can hamper, their own receptivity, their own health and mental well-being for a moment, it's something to watch out for.
Right. And also being aware that your loved one is, like I said, everybody's different, everybody operates differently. Um, a story comes to mind that might serve as an example. And there are so many stories of like this one that I have, of people that I know that did not have ARP to turn to, and spent hours and hours and days and weeks looking for the information. But this
Oh,
this particular
I'm so
person
sorry.
that I'm going to tell you about was an educator, a teacher, and had a boy, a little boy in her class, who was autistic. And when she was teaching and speaking, he would never look at her. He was always, looking at something else, had his head turned, whatever. And she would always insist, I'm just going to say Johnny, right? I don't know what his name was, but hey,
Sure.
Johnny, look at me,
Right.
hey, Johnny, I'm talking, pay attention. And and it was very frustrating because Johnny wouldn't do it, or when he did do it, he would look like he was somewhere else. And in fact, he was. What the teacher didn't realize is that when Johnny was not looking at her, he was paying attention and he heard every single word that she said. But when he was forced to direct his eye contact in that direction, his mind just went somewhere else. That's the way Johnny worked. That's the way his brain worked. That's the way he functioned. And it took her a very long time and a lot of research to discover that. And in the meantime, of course, there was this whole long period of time when she was doing a disservice, not because she wanted to, but because she didn't have the information, doing a disservice to this young boy, and not really allowing him to function in the classroom as he needed to. So again, relating back to the holidays, if someone needs to function or needs to interact in a certain way, respect that, and give them the room and the freedom to do that, because that will not only make the holidays more enjoyable for them, it'll make the holidays more enjoyable for you as well.
Looking to grow your business beyond 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures plus? What I want you to do is go download this book. The title is called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. It will help you grow your business past 5, 6, and 7 figure. Go download the book today. Growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash, and download the book for absolutely free.
I love that. Okay, so in business, when we're doing these things, it's always, and I love how you see, as a professional, you automatically took this and made this a one-on-one story, right? I talk to people all day long. I work with about a new 50 charities a month, right? And one of the big mistakes that they always make is they do what we call banquet numbers, right? Years ago, I was working with a no-kill dog shelter, and I love dogs, right? I have my own dog, and but it was so boring. They would say, every year in our community, 13,000 snore, right? Complete snooze fest. Was it important? Did it show you the size and scope of the problem? Yes, but it was too big. And I showed them, and I said, let me see some of your pictures. And I saw a picture, and I said, let me describe it differently. Here's a picture of Toby the puppy, half frozen in a Michigan winter ditch. And they're like, oh crap. I'm like, right. See, immediately you can anchor with it. And so, and you jumped right to that. Let me tell you a story about a one-on-one individual. We'll call him Johnny, right? But immediately that makes more sense and allows you to sit there and understand, because it's a one-on-one thing. And I wish everybody grasped that. I think you should teach another class, and it's just for nonprofits. It's just not everybody, right? But tell me a story of one, or at least two, Hansel and Gretel, right? But if possible, Hansel or Gretel. But let's make it more so. So let's say there's a mom and a dad, and they've just gotten the news, right?
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the best laid plans of mice and men, this is not the thing that everybody plans for, right? And so it can be very easy for somebody to say, everything is upended now, right? The inkwell has been upset and spilled all over everything. What do we do now? Worse is, will my child have a normal life? Will they be able to experience? It's a cacophony of fears and panic that would race around like a whirlwind in their head. What does the brand new parents, or soon to be new parents, where do they start? And what do they do on what they're afraid may be the worst hour, the worst day of their life? What should be this moment of joy in this celebration? How do you take them from panic mode to go, this too shall pass?
Well, it doesn't, it, that moment of fear will pass. The the diagnosis will not, but that's okay.
Sure.
Because what and I'll tell you another story.
I love stories, so you have the
This
floor.
is it's these people that I'm describing to you that we have created ARP for.
Mhm.
All right. Um, a young mother that just got a diagnosis and was told by the doctor, well, I don't really know what to do. I don't really know, where to send you. Maybe wait until your daughter gets a little bit older and, bring her back and, we can give her some drugs, we can write her a prescription or, I mean, and literally she went home and locked herself in the closet and sat on the floor and cried because if the
Because your
doctor,
main resource, your doctor said, I don't know, come back
I don't know
later and
what to
I'll give you
do.
drugs.
Yeah,
I'd be I'm having a panic attack. I'm like, talk me down from the ledge. And my doctor said, go home sometime in the future, nameless drugs. That
yeah,
makes me feel better, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. So again, that is why ARP, that is why Autism Resource Project exists. We are giving that young mother, that young father, that caretaker, that grandparent,
Mm.
that family member who has a loved one that they need to support, that they want to support, a place to go to find those answers, to find the resources, to find the services, to find the products, to find the information.
Mm.
I'll tell you, if I had had when my son was diagnosed, he's 26 now. He was first diagnosed at the age of 3. And if I had had ARP when my son was first diagnosed, I would have thought I found the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I got to be honest with you because,
I'd have drank a whole lot less, right?
oh my goodness, it's and I'm the parent where I would ask for something to my son.
Mhm.
And usually the first answers you hear are either no, or we don't do it that way, or, we've never done it that way before. And my answer to that would be, well, then this will be the first time. We're gonna do it right now. Work with me here. There's a first time for everything. You know,
Well,
un
there's a
unfortunately,
new rule book. There's a new chapter. Or you're about to get it first. I'm going
you
to
know,
write that down. Oh my gosh.
unfortunately, a lot of parents will stop at the no, or if English isn't your first language, forget about it.
Right,
It's a terrible thing because, of course, the one who ends up suffering the most is the child because they're not getting the support that they need.
right, right.
And as we know, knowledge is power.
Mm.
And so that's what we aim to do at ARP is to educate and to provide that knowledge and that information and those resources.
So
So,
a mother wants,
so when that parent gets a diagnosis, my first suggestion is come to autismresourceproject.org. But don't lose hope. Don't ever lose hope because your child is amazing. Your child does not need to be fixed. Your child simply needs to be supported in the ways that they need so that they can thrive. And that is absolutely entirely possible. There are services and supports out there to help you do that. There are people out there that are unlike the doctor I just described that do have the wherewithal and the knowledge and the resources to help. So don't give up and just get out there and do your homework and do the research. And I guarantee you, you will get there. You will find what you're looking for, and you will be able to help your kid.
And if you start with ARP, the research is going to be a lot shorter.
Yeah,
I was going to say
it's
is
going to be way, way shorter.
it would be so frustrating because a mother wants to nurture, she wants to nest, right? She wants to take care. And if she doesn't know what this one little chickadee needs, right, then it can be panicky. Daddy, he wants to protect, he wants to provide, but if he doesn't know, that can be the scariest part is you don't know, you don't know. Like I said, my car ride was coming home was a long car ride, and it was less than 5 miles, and I can imagine being thrust in that situation for the first time. And it's easier, you could look back and say, was I ever so young, right? Was I ever that this is what terrified me, this is what I did not know, right? When it was all highly navigatable, and yet here you are. So your son diagnosed at 3, and he's 26 now.
Mhm.
So what's the average age of diagnoses given today?
Well, that is also
It
it's a very
is
good question,
diverse
but
as the different children that and humans we're talking about,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely. I
That's my
will.
favorite part of this conversation, Will. None of this goes in a box like every other human being except for the fact that we're carbon-based life forms.
Well, so let me answer that by saying it really varies. It is far more common for males to be diagnosed earlier than females because females are so good at masking. Um, it is not uncommon for females to be diagnosed in their teens, 20s, 30s, or even later.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
Imagine a scenario where a mother who has, let's say, her son has just been diagnosed with autism, for example, and she's reading the report and she's going through the report and going through the things that the doctor, the neuropsychologist, whoever it is who did the report, and she's reading it, and all of a sudden thinks to herself, "Oh my God, that's me." and 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 realizes that she herself is neurodivergent.
Wow.
It's far more common than you know. It's not unheard of for a male to also be late diagnosed, especially because in recent years, the diagnostic tools that we have become much more sophisticated and much more prevalent, and we've become much more open-minded about receiving that kind of diagnosis, right?
Well, so
But so it really, really varies.
when
You
you
know,
say
as I say, and
masking, that is a very particular statement. So
masking, yeah.
let me ask you a question. We were told by a kindergarten teacher, right, years ago.
Mhm.
They're like, in kindergarten, when you get up and the children and they do a little dance or they make music, right, with the zip sticks and the blocks on sandpaper and the
Mhm.
triangle, right, and all that stuff. And everybody said, yeah, yeah. And she's like, all for boys. And we're like, what? And they're like, yeah, all for boys. Because a little girl will sit down. You can take a little girl, right? 98% of little girls, you can sit them in a chair and they will sit there and they focus earlier and more quickly. And except for when being forced out by a need for a snack or to go potty, right? They can sit there and listen to the teacher, but they said little boys get ants in their pants and you've got to bounce them around. When you say girls mask more quickly, is this something as in because little girls typically can focus younger, or is it because they typically are more aware of what others think around them and they're trying to mimic something?
Well, that's really what masking is really, they're generally speaking, again, this is a generalization, but generally speaking, they are better at suppressing certain inclinations that they might have and at mimicking what they see others doing.
Hmm.
So their true inclination or needs or desires are inhibited, and it appears as though they do not have certain challenges or sensory issues or whatever else they might be dealing with, when in reality they're masking, right? They're suppressing it. They're not expressing it in the way that they would most likely prefer to be. And so it goes unnoticed and undiagnosed.
I mean, it's mind-numbingly fascinating. And if I can see somebody doing that, it's much more of a girl. I was a little ADD, and I mean, a train could be going by, and I wouldn't know because I'm just in my own world. Now I'm doing my own thing. But the little girls were always a lot more socially aware, a lot more focused. My sisters, I have five sisters, and they were always much more just, you know, getting their mother's shoes, practicing and little things, and it was mimicry, right? But they did it at such a younger age. I think the fantastic thing that you really unpacked for me is, which may make it slightly harder for everybody, is the beauty of humanity is we're all different, and you cannot cookie cutter this thing, right? Because outside of neurodivergence and disabilities, we're all a spectrum of humanity anyway. Inside of the actual spectrum, that same, you're going to have everybody. It's going to be a little bit different. So there's not one cookie cutter approach. But again, you said your own library. And I'm like, I can imagine being that panicky parent going home. Okay, we got to get home. We got to get on Amazon, look up some books. And then me saying, there are 3,200 books on this. How do we know? And you and I both know that the number of purchases and number of likes doesn't mean it's a good book for they can just have a good PR team nowadays, right? It's not always the good thing.
That's right.
In building, if I can take just a second, in building your own pieces, have you come across in and I'm going to use the word again, curating your own library and your own projects for it. Have you come across stuff that you had to say, this is an absolute must, this has got to go in? This thing is a stinking piece of flaming garbage, and I don't know how they got. I mean, without naming any names, but can you just say, like, what was this clickbaity little shiny object that they put out there, which is it feels almost like a little money grab, but it just wasn't anything to it.
Well, look, as in any field, there's going to be the good information, the bad information, the good resources, and the not so good resources. It's one of the main reasons that we are going to be, and this is a process, right? This is a work in progress, because we are rather nascent at the moment. We just got our 501 earlier this year, so
a wonderful word.
Our journey has just begun, but we will have a vetting feature on the site, so that we will allow people, for example, if you're familiar with a Yelp review and that sort of thing, we will allow people the opportunity to express their opinions and share their experiences so that other people can benefit from them. And it's so funny, you were talking just a little bit ago, you were talking about the spectrum and, you and humanity and so forth. And you touched on one of my personal philosophies that I would just like to share very quickly, if I may.
Tell me. You have
which is While I think labels are okay, because they tend to give us, a 50,000-foot view, from that perspective. If you say autism spectrum, you have a broad general kind of view of perhaps the challenges or issues that person might be dealing with. But to be honest, at some point in the future, I'm hopeful that those kinds of labels will be unnecessary, because my opinion is we're all part of the human spectrum. It's just a matter of, where do you vibrate? Are you ultraviolet? Are you visible? Are you infrared? Right? Because we all have our faults, our foibles, our idiosyncrasies. Every single one of us. I've never met a person that didn't. And it's really just about finding out where that other person vibrates, and building that bridge and finding out the best way to communicate and meeting them halfway. And that's really what it's all about.
Amen to that. I just love that it's such it's a resource, and it makes me feel good when you say it's not cookie cutter and it's not done. It's never going to be done. It's always going to be working. It's always going to be, developing, the pieces you have in there. I know, um, I knew a man of faith, right, years ago, and he was put to work in a little Christian bookstore, and it was really failing. And in a year and a half, it did better than any store in its region. And this man was a complete bibliophile, lover of books. He read voraciously, and I mean voraciously. And he basically read every book that was in there, and then would review and take all the books that were coming in that they want to put on the shelves. And he threw out half of them as absolute, hokum and garbage. And so he put just better quality pieces on it, and his, the audience, the people that were looking for for books, absolutely gravitated to that. And I'm glad y'all are out there. I've said this more than once, like catchers in the rye, looking out for the rest of us, because until we're in that situation, we don't need what we don't, we don't know what we don't, what we need and what we don't need right now, right? Until we're in that. And then all of a sudden, it's like, feel like I need a superpower. I feel like I need to read every book that's ever been written so I can remotely try to get a grasp on this and get ahead of it, when with a little bit of resource, with a little, you're already curating your own library and your own pieces, and a little bit of help, and just being attuned to what your child, who is not off the rack, but is a tailored garment, they're their own unique, flavor, um, is going to need, because that child's going to be different. It's going to share some qualities with others, but no two people are the same, right? And that's
That is absolutely right.
well. I appreciate you bringing that bringing that up, especially about the holidays with those coming up. I highly encourage, um, my CEOs, my COOs that are here watching. I know you're short-staffed. Everybody is short-staffed. Everybody has that particular problem. You have a resource that is at your fingertips. And Gilda and her team may be able to even help, maybe even able to help with that. Gilda, have I left anything else? Have I left anything else?
I think we've covered a lot. We could go on for hours and hours, but
We could. We might need to come back. I like to come back about once a year and do it. Sometimes once every
all
six
right.
months when it's something that has as much meat to this. Um, Now we're gonna have all of Gilda and the team's links and everything below. And as usual, if you have a business and you would like to support the Autism Resource Project, you may absolutely do that without writing a check. Let Visa, MasterCard do it. We'll have links for you. Feel free to click below. If you would like to click through the links and go directly to Gilda and her team at ARP, you may certainly do that. And Gilda, thank you so much again for coming on. You never leave me bored. You always unpack some new area. And thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Will. It was an absolute pleasure to be here with you today, and I really, truly appreciate the opportunity.
Of course.
Hey, we all want to scale our business. Hey, I have the answer for you today to help you do that. If you're looking to scale from 5, 6, even 7 figures and beyond, book called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. I'm going to give it to you for free. All you have to do is type in growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash, and you can download the book for absolutely free. I hope the book helps you this year. Take your business to the next level. Again, go grab the book, growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash. I wish you the best and grow, scale, and win.
That wraps up today's episode of The Wizard of Dogs. We hope you've enjoyed the insights and ideas shared in today's conversation. Now, if you found value in this episode, don't forget to subscribe and tell us how we're doing. Your feedback helps us bring you more content that matters. And of course, stay connected with us for updates, tips, and more. Until next time, keep giving, take care, and keep making an impact.
There it is. Magnum. Holy moly.
Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for!
Dear God.